Now, the Trump administration on Thursday announced a new $16 billion worth of farm aid package to offset losses from the U.S. trade war with China. Now, in a conference call with the reporters, Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue said that $14.5 billion of the $16 billion would be paid directly to producers who have been hit by Trump's tariff showdowns with China, Mexico, and other countries. Now, the package ensures farmers will not bear the brunt of the trade wars, according to Perdue. Now, look, this trade war, by the way, need I remind you, was started by President Trump. I think that's something that continues to need to be pointed out. Donald Trump started this, and he said, oh, no, trade wars will be really good and easy to win. It turns out, nope, oops. He actually made it so much more difficult for farmers, for small farmers that you say that you're in favor of, to actually get their product or to sell their product. I mean, what did you think was going to happen when you put tariffs on billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, right? They're going to hit you back. And it just so happened that China was one of the biggest buyers of U.S.-made soybeans. Now, by the way, the tariffs don't cost the Chinese government any money. No. The American people pay that, and it ends up being an effective tax. And then, of course, what happens, you get into trade wars, which continue to hurt people as the costs get passed down to the consumer, to regular Americans. So now, the government is propping up an industry, by the way, with federal money now, $16 billion, now $12 billion before, and who knows how much in the future. And this is what happens. You know what they call that? They call that socialism. Socialism for the farmers, who, by the way, a lot of farmers actually more likely to support President Trump. They get the socialism, while everyone else gets rugged individualism. What happened to, having a problem with giveaways? Well, it turns out they love giveaways when it goes to the people that they're going to vote for, that they're going to get votes from. They love those giveaways. They love giving it to, and I don't think that they're small farmers. Most of the ones who are going to get these subsidies, it's actually going to be large agricultural companies. So these large companies, these large corporations are going to get a lot of these subsidies, and the small, normal farmers are not. And of course, that hurts the small farmers who already are at a disadvantage when compared to these larger corporations. Now they're having even more of a disadvantage because of this ridiculous trade war. I mean, I want to give you more information on this aid package from the Hill. According to the Hill, the bulk of the payments will be set aside for row crops such as alfalfa, wheat, and oats, which will be paid at a single rate according to the number of acres planted in each county. More niche crops, including tree nuts, sweet cherries, cranberries, and grapes, will also be eligible, depending on the tariff impacts. Dairy and pork producers also stand to receive relief under that system. And there's an additional $1.4 billion that will be used to purchase surplus food for food banks, schools, and Native American tribes. Now, I'm not saying this entire package is bad. There's good stuff in it. In fact, that last one, that $1.4 billion for food banks, great, fine. But here's the hypocrisy, right? Most of the stuff that helps the general public, like healthcare and education, well, that's considered socialism, that's bad. But the government literally paying farmers because of the effects of Trump's trade war that he started, well, that's not socialism, and that's awesome. Right? We can give them money all day. Do you see the disconnect here? Now, obviously, there needs to be something done, obviously, end the trade war. Now, that's not going to solve all the problems. Sure, you end the tariffs, you end the trade war. Well, guess what? China has already signed new agreements with other countries to import their soybeans. So it's not as if it's going to go back to normal now. No, it turns out that now the United States, these farmers are going to have to find new buyers. And so what are we going to do? We're going to continue to subsidize them until they do? This is going to mess things up, or has already messed things up, for a long time to come. That's why you don't get into trade wars without thinking about it first, without having some sort of strategy in place. Now, that said, look, the Chinese have done some shady things. Yes, they do theft of intellectual property, they dump steel, they do things like that. And there are some unfair trade practices that China had done. Nonetheless, starting ridiculous trade wars. Look, you don't actually get more fairer trade by shooting yourself in the foot. And that's what these tariffs are. And that's, unfortunately, what this whole thing is. It's a disaster from the disaster in chief. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.